Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. Above all, it is the courage to continue that counts. I want you to imagine something uncomfortable for a moment. One quiet night, no noise, no distractions, just you and the weight of years you can't get back. Most people don't fear death. They fear the moment just before it, when they finally understand what mattered and realize how much time they spent chasing the wrong things. Stay with me, because this isn't about someone else. This is about you. There's a strange truth about life that no one warned you about early enough. By the time you clearly see the pattern, you're already deep inside it. The habits, the compromises, the quiet decisions that felt small at the time. At 25, life feels wide open. You think time is generous. You think mistakes are reversible. You think clarity will arrive later. It doesn't. Most people don't realize this until it's too late. Life doesn't suddenly change. It quietly drifts. One year blends into the next. And before you know it, you're no longer becoming someone. You're just maintaining who you already are. Pause for a moment. Think about your own life, not the big dreams you talk about. The ordinary days, the routines, the things you tell yourself you'll fix soon. This is where life quietly changes. When I think back to my 25-year-old self, I don't see someone foolish. I see someone hopeful, curious, full of energy, but deeply confused about what actually mattered. I believed effort alone would save me, that working harder would automatically lead to a meaningful life, that being busy meant I was moving forward. No one told me that you can be exhausted and still be completely lost. Here's something most people never say out loud. Your 20s don't ruin your life through big mistakes. They shape your life through small neglects, the conversations you avoid, the skills you don't build, the boundaries you don't set, the discomfort you keep postponing. At the time it feels harmless. Later it feels permanent. Think about the choices you're making right now. Not the dramatic ones, the quiet ones. What you tolerate, what you delay, what you ignore because it feels easier. This is where most people get it wrong. We're taught to chase confidence, to appear strong, to have answers. But the real danger at 25 isn't insecurity. It's false certainty. Believing you already know who you are. Believing you'll figure it out later. Believing life will correct itself. Life doesn't correct itself. It compounds. Every unspoken truth becomes a habit. Every avoided fear becomes a boundary you never cross. Every year you spend numbing yourself becomes a year you forget how to feel deeply. I remember telling myself I had time to call my parents more, time to take risks, time to leave what didn't feel right. Time felt infinite. Until suddenly, it wasn't. Pause here. When was the last time you did something that scared you in a meaningful way? Not reckless, not impulsive, but honest. Most regret doesn't come from failure. It comes from betrayal of the self you once believed in. There's a quiet moment that arrives for many people in their 30s or 40s. Nothing dramatic happens, no crisis, no explosion, just a realization. This is my life now. And that sentence can feel either peaceful or devastating. That moment is built long before it arrives. At 25, I chased approval without noticing. I said yes when I meant no. I shaped myself to fit rooms I didn't belong in. I thought being liked was the same as being valued. It isn't. Think about how much of your energy goes into managing how others see you. The image, the performance, the version of you that feels acceptable. This is exhausting. And worse, it's distracting. Because while you're busy being impressive, life is quietly asking something else of you. It's asking for alignment. Most people don't realize this until it's too late. A successful life that isn't aligned feels heavier than a hard life that is. Another thing I wish I understood sooner. No one is coming to save you from a life you don't like. Not motivation, not luck, not the right relationship, not the perfect opportunity. Waiting is a decision, and it has consequences. Pause again. What are you waiting for right now? Permission? Confidence? A sign? That sign may never come. At 25, I thought clarity would arrive before action. But clarity comes from action, from trying, from failing, from paying attention. Avoiding discomfort doesn't keep you safe, it keeps you small. I've seen brilliant people live average lives because they waited for certainty. I've seen ordinary people build meaningful lives because they moved despite fear. This is where life quietly changes. There's also something no one prepares you for emotionally. People drift, friends change, paths separate, and it's no one's fault. But if you build your identity entirely around who you're with instead of who you are, those shifts feel like losses instead of transitions. At 25, I feared being alone, so I stayed in places that felt familiar, not right. I confused comfort with belonging. Think about your relationships, not just romantic ones. Friendships, work environments, communities. Do they challenge you to grow or help you avoid growth? Here's a hard truth. You outgrow people when you stop lying to yourself. And that's painful, but it's also necessary. Most people don't realize this until it's too late. Staying loyal to an old version of yourself costs more than leaving it behind. As years pass, another realization sets in. Energy is not unlimited. You don't get endless emotional resets. What you tolerate now trains your nervous system. What you repeat now becomes normal. That's why small daily choices matter more than dramatic moments. They shape what feels possible later. Pause for a moment. What feels normal in your life that once felt wrong? That question alone holds answers most people avoid. I used to think success would silence my doubts. It didn't. I thought achievement would bring peace. It didn't. Peace came much later, when I stopped running from myself. And here's the part I wish someone had told me clearly at 25. Not gently, not poetically. Clearly, your life will not become meaningful by accident. Meaning is built through attention, through honesty, through choosing what matters, even when it's inconvenient. Most people spend their early years optimizing for comfort, then spend the rest of their lives trying to escape it. This is where the real lesson begins. Everything I've said so far leads here. The core truth I would tell my 25-year-old self is this. Stop asking what will make you happy. Start asking what kind of pain you're willing to accept. Because every meaningful life contains pain. The pain of discipline, the pain of honesty, the pain of growth, or the pain of regret, the pain of stagnation, the pain of pretending. You don't get to avoid pain, you only choose which one you'll live with. That's the lesson most people learn too late. At 25, I ran from discomfort. I now understand that discomfort was the doorway. The conversations I avoided were the ones that would have freed me. The risks I delayed were the ones that would have clarified my path. The truths I swallowed were the ones that slowly disconnected me from myself. Think about your own life right now. Which pain are you choosing by default? Because default choices become permanent stories. The good news is this. If you're listening to this now, you're earlier than you think. Awareness changes the timeline. You don't need to destroy your life to rebuild it. You need to tell the truth about it. Start smaller than you think. One honest decision, one boundary, one difficult conversation, one brave step you stop postponing. Life doesn't transform overnight, but it does respond to direction. And here's the quiet ending most people miss. A meaningful life doesn't feel loud, it feels grounded, clear, steady. At the end, what matters isn't how fast you moved, but whether you were moving toward yourself. If I could talk to my 25-year-old self, I wouldn't warn him about failure. I'd warn him about numbness. Because a life you fully feel, even when it's hard, is far richer than a life you merely survive. And the time to choose that is always now.